SCAREcrow, Sentinel Conservation via Aerial Reconnaissance and Escort. Yeah, so the idea is that there's wild animals that can be harmful to property. That property can be farmland and whatnot. So in a pandemic era, the last thing you want to deal with is not having an income source as well as food to feed the community. So if we can be able to protect like crops and different property from wild animals, endangering them, that can be really valuable in this type of situation, a pandemic situation. Another thing that comes into play is if the animals are carriers of the disease, can we help maintain animals and keep them out of a certain area that we don't want them to enter? So that area could be a residential area, it could again be like a farm, you don't want them to get in contact with your livestock. So the idea is how can we keep animals away from assets that are valuable, especially during a pandemic. Our approach is different in the sense that for one, we're pulling on some available data to be able to attack a problem that people aren't necessarily tackling, so the whole identifying and driving out animals. So there's a lot of work where UAVs are used to identify animals, to track animals, to understand what they're doing. There's not a whole lot of work to actually interact with the animal and drive it to do something you want it to do. So one of the things that's different about our approach is we're trying to learn the most effective way to not only track and understand the predict the motion of that animal, but then to actually drive that animal to a place we want it to go rather than just surveilling it. And so the idea there is that we can be able to drive them out of these keep out zones, places where we don't want them to be. Another thing that's kind of unique about that is the way we're doing that is we're assuming emergent swarm behavior of the animals themselves. So it's this idea that the animals are going to do kind of novel path planning as a group. They're going to have some sort of attraction to each other, and then we're assuming a repulsion away from the UAV. So if we can use the UAV to drive a repulsion to those animals to push them away from a certain area, the whole idea of using the reinforcement learning is that we can basically learn a more novel control mechanism for doing that. Especially against these emergent swarm behaviors, it's hard to really understand what they're going to do. So if we can run a bunch of simulations against sort of random and guided emergent swarm behavior, then we can be able to learn more novel control mechanisms for driving them out and guiding them, like herding them in a direction we want them to go.
So the way we've architected our system is in a way that we can easily extend this to other use cases that follow a similar pattern. And that pattern is you have an area, you want to have surveillance on that area, and you don't want something to be in that area.